Pavlova night. There we go. There's my notification. It's Pavlova night for the PoP, the Practice of Pastry Baking Club, which you guys all gave me the idea for that. I was just going to come on here and answer questions, but now we're doing lectures and demos once a week and one recipe that I build my whole profile page around, which I love. All right. Welcome to Wednesday. Yeah, the kitchen is cold. I live in Connecticut, and actually the front of this apartment that I rent is really warm. That's where the sun comes in, so that's where the thermostat is. So then this back side faces the north, and so it's cold. So like it's warm up there and cold in here. It's like a DLT apartment. And today I was a little worried about my egg whites being warm, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so here's what we're doing. We are doing a Pavlova for the Baking Club Part 1, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am going to demo how to make a French meringue, or a common meringue as they are called, and then show you how to make it into a Pavlova. And I'm going to talk about all the things that you need to think about when you approach it. Some of the things that I talk about, you can take it or leave it. Other things are just concepts. And then some things might be deal breakers. And I'm going to get started right away with a fit check, which for me, being in the kitchen and being a professional who just passed her sanitation exam and is once again a proctor and ServSafe instructor, and it was not fun, but I'll talk about it later, knows that I have to have safe, comfortable clothing on. I like short sleeves for working with pastry. I have safe, non-skid clogs on. I'm gonna pull my hair back. I have short fingernails, no nail polish or fake nails, and no jewelry. If I did have jewelry, I could have a wedding band on, but it had to be plain gold. And, oh, thanks. So I'm gonna pull my hair up and then we are gonna get started. I did post all of my notes on Substack today. It's 5 pages long, but it's everything I know about Pavlova to date. And if you wanna go along, and I've already been kind of taking some notes. So that's what I do. I print things out, and then as I get new information, I just keep adding it. And then for those of you, I don't know if any of you were here on last Sunday. We were talking about the passion fruit, but I did get passion fruit, and I found a Floreal recipe that I got from Floreal when I staged there in 2014, and it is insanely good. So I have all the information, so exciting. I'm gonna pull my hair back, don't go anywhere, and then we are gonna get going. Right. Woo. I would love to be in an industry where I could look cute and dress up. I would give anything to have to wear like a suit or a really cool outfit, but I'm not, so I don't. This is what I'm doing. So I have my workspace, a clean apron. Aprons are intended to keep your clothes clean. They are not intended for you to wipe your hands on. And a clean apron is kind of a sign of how you work. So if you have a dirty apron, believe it or not, that can actually be a contaminant. So you definitely want to make sure to buy, these are $5. My aprons are not expensive. And they're $5. I buy as many as I can. I wear them for a day, and then I get a fresh one, and then I wear those for a day. I work out of an apartment that I rent, and it is certified, but it's a home kitchen that I dedicate to my work, and I live just right there. So I run back and forth all the time. Yes, the passion fruit. So I'm going to be doing a video on that, and it's a cream, and that's going to go on the Pavlova. So I'm not going to make it here, but I'm going to do a video for you guys to see. So what I need to do to get started is wash my hands and sanitize the countertop. I just use a disinfectant. I use a paper towel, and I let it dry. And that will bring down whatever stuff I have in here I might not know I have. I have been cracking eggs because I did my egg whites earlier. Then I'm going to wash my hands, and then I'm going to show you my recipe, which is so small. A Pavlova is just 3 ingredients. Woo, hot. And where I live, it goes from being dry and overly dry, and my hands are dry, to like overly humid and miserable. So this is the sweet spot for doing, let me push this up. This is the sweet spot for doing a Pavlova. All right, let me get my ingredients. Woo. we're going to talk about desired outcome and what we're looking for. Pavlovas are not hard. I understand. A lot of people say, oh, you know, you made such a big fuss and it's not that hard. But if you look at best practices, a Pavlova is a meringue. And if you look at the ingredients, which are egg whites, 10x, and then this is sucrose. And this is not super fine, so I'm going to have to put it in my food processor real quick. And then we have cream of tartar. Cream of tartar is what they take off the bottom of barrels when they age red wine, I think. And it's a byproduct. And it helps pre-coagulate the egg whites. It's like an acid. You could use a little vinegar or you could use a little bit of lemon. But I'm just going to use cream of tartar for my eggs. And then I have vanilla bean paste. It has the least amount of liquid, but I might not use it. So I'm going to think about if I want to and why. So everything that I do is in service of these ingredients. Whatever I change or however I treat them is how they need to be treated for my best desired outcome. Now, Pavlovas are really just a mounded up amount of meringue that gets baked really low and slow. So the outside gets crunchy and the inside stays marshmallowy. And meringues are nothing more than egg foams. And the kind of meringue that you have is determined by the amount of sucrose or sugar in relation to the egg white, and the amount of sugar determines the outcome. More sugar gives you a more stable meringue. Cooking the sugar, like an Italian or maybe a Swiss, these are all different temperatures, gives you a stronger meringue because you're cooking out more of the moisture. But what we're doing today is called a common meringue because it's raw sugar and raw egg white. So we have a lot of water in our egg white. Now, you could use old egg whites, which are aged, and the ones you get at the store are already like a month old. But that will give you it'll give you a lot of volume and make you feel really good about having this really large meringue. But what we're looking for is a stable meringue. And a stable meringue means that you have less water. If you think about what water does in food, is it sort of creates an environment for things to age, to weep, to rot. Water invites in bacteria and stuff like that. So if you're trying to stabilize the water, you're trying to lock it in or get rid of it. So you can do that through cooking. You can do it when you whip something by aerating it and beating off some of the moisture that lives in there. And we're going to do it a couple different ways. We're going to aerate the egg whites with the sucrose, and at the end of mixing, fold in 10x, which has cornstarch, which is going to soak up some of the moisture and stabilize it. And then once we make the Pavlova, I'm going to sprinkle additional 10x over it. All of these things are building toward a stable product that will then go in the oven. And instead of it releasing water in the oven at a high temp or something, all of these steps are going to get us a little drier. And then in the next step, a little drier and a little drier until we have control over the finished product, which is like the crunchy outside and the nice soft inside. I used citric acid one time for an angel food cake. Word of warning, it takes less. Very moist. Yeah, citric acid, did you use, I mean, it comes in a powder and what you can do, right? Did you use a powder? You can make it into a dropper with water. I've done that with tartaric acid. You buy it in a powder and then you dilute it with water, and I've used it for my caramel making. So the point really is you need to know what acidic level your acids are. So the cream of tartar is going to be stronger than a lemon. Lemon juice is going to add a little bit of acid, but also a lot of water because lemon juice has got a lot of water. So you don't really want to be adding more water. That's why I'm concerned about using extract versus the paste. Plus I love having the vanilla beans like in the meringue. I think it looks really pretty. It was powder crystals. Yeah, so it is stronger and you can use any acid. And in fact, I'm going to use a pinch, but for me, that's a pretty random amount. So if you're doing a large batch and you're in a restaurant situation or in a larger volume situation, you're going to want to scale this probably, I don't know the percentage. I imagine it's somewhere around 1% maybe, although it's a lot less for this. The 10X, great question. 10X is powdered sugar, and it's most of the time it's the powdered sugar you get at the store. Sometimes grocery stores, especially in a box, have 6X. And if you look at the label, it'll tell you if it's 10X or 6X. 6X has a larger crystal structure, it's grainier, and it has less cornstarch. Some people don't like 10X, especially for making icings and things, because they think they can taste the cornstarch, and that's just a preference. I like 10X because it's very soft. So our desired outcome is to create a meringue that is so not grainy, shiny, where I take the water that lives inside the egg white, I slowly introduce the sucrose, which is table sugar, to the point where it starts to dissolve, and I add it so slowly because this is going to start to deflate and weigh down the egg white. I'm going to add this so slowly that it has time to catch up. It starts dissolving and turning into a thick, like a viscous syrup. Meanwhile, the proteins that live in here, and you can't see them, but you know what proteins are. You know what your muscles are like. You eat meat. It's the same thing. It's these connecting tissues that right now are all in here, just kind of jaggedy. When you start to cook, mix, or add an acid, they start to denature, which means they all start to open up. When they start to open up, they look around for each other and they grab on. As they start to grab on, this thick, sugary syrup creates sort of a wall, like a balloon. And as you're whipping it on medium, you start to whip air that gets collected in this sugary bubble. And these bubbles, you want to remain small, all of them, instead of having some big and some little. You want them all to be evenly sized so that if one breaks, it doesn't make the whole thing fall apart. Because if you have a big ones and little ones and a big one breaks, and you're going to have a collapse. So we are going to try to build very slowly and control everything until we get a really stable meringue. So when you use aging egg whites, gives you great volume because it's less water and it's more protein basically, because you get rid of some of the water. If you're looking for it to be stable though, because a lot of times the old egg whites will then weep, and this is all in my notes. I mentioned quite a bit about it in my notes on Substack. You are going to, if you want stability, you're going to go with newer egg whites, and if you want volume, you'll go with older egg whites. Older egg whites, like let's say you're going to do something right now and use it right away, that's great. But if it's going to sit for any amount of time, you want more stability. Anytime you make a meringue, other than an Italian meringue, you really do kind of need to use it right away. A humid environment is very difficult. And when I lived in Charlotte, I emailed a woman who ran a caramel candy making business in Chicago and said, how do you make caramel when it's 95 humid, this and that? And she basically said, you don't. So you can make meringues now down there, but you have to serve it immediately. This is not something that you can let sit around because sugar is always the bully in the bowl. If you have 10 ingredients and not enough water, this is going to get what it needs. That's why when recipes are balanced for the amount of moisture, it takes into account that sugar is going to take it from everybody else. So for a meringue, you make it, you bake it, it's sitting there. It is going to be looking around for moisture in the air. That's its job. It's hygroscopic. That's just what it does all the time. So, if you serve it right away, but in the summertime, you probably can't do this. Like I do all this sugar work I showed you and they just fell off the wall. I mean, because a royal icing and pastillage is kind of like a meringue. So but if you live in the South and you have bad humidity, even in the air conditioning, sucrose is going to win. It is the bully. So you can try and you can make a really stable one, but you are going to have problems that I don't have. All right, so now I'm going to get to my recipe. This is the recipe that is on my link tree, and it's on my YouTube link tree and on my TikTok link tree. And on here, I brought it down to 50% because it was a big recipe. And we have 450 grams of egg whites, And an egg white weighs approximately 30 grams, so that's 15 eggs. I pulled 16 as an estimate for food safety because you only pull what you need. And I was almost exactly right. This is more than 450 grams of sucrose because I'm going to run it through my food processor because we want to make these sugar particles smaller, because when you're working with sugar and making cookies, it's good to have regular granulated sugar because it cuts through the butter and creates holes that can later be filled with the gases during baking. But in confection or meringue, we want this to dissolve a little bit in here and we don't want it to weigh it down. And we aren't building air by cutting through anything. We're building air by joining, you know, the viscous syrup and the proteins and creating air bubbles. So I'm going to cut this down into smaller particles. I'm going to sift my 10x, and I have 225. So when you look at the recipe, a French or common meringue is 2-to-1, sugar to egg white. And in this case, it's 1.5. So it's variable depending. And I just like this recipe for this application. But I've done a ton of these, and you know, sometimes meringues can be just, they aren't 1.5 or 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. Sometimes they're sort of in the middle as you dial it in for your needs and how you like them. I love this recipe. We're baking, we are making a Pavlova tonight, and I am talking about the ingredients and the ingredient function. I'm thinking like an ingredient because, you know, really the fact that we are in all these different places in the world, it means something. My eggs are going to be different if I bought them at the store or got them from the farmer. My sugar is going to be different whether it's beet sugar or cane sugar. My 10x is going to be different depending on how old it is. I mean, do you have sucrose that's hard and crunchy or anything that's old and has absorbed a lot of moisture? This is going to affect your final outcome. And that's what I think is fascinating. So to get all the sugar into this meringue, I do 1-to-1. 450 grams each, sucrose to egg, and then I add more in the form of 10x because this is going to absorb more moisture. There are recipes that will have just sucrose at 1.5 or 2-to-1. So you get to pick what you like. And a lot of this stuff is variable and it depends on where you live. If you live in a really dry climate, you might not even need the 10x. I just happen to think that it really kind of helps wherever I am because I'm mid-level humidity, I think, and I'm near the ocean, so that's why we just have a different climate than the people even 5 miles inland. Yeah, Drew, the weather variability is insane. The way that it affects bread, especially artisan breads. The 6x, would you add a bit of cornstarch? I would not adjust it. That's a great question. Don't adjust it. It'll be fine. You know, some people will add in cornstarch at the end, but what you want to do is start with what you have. I believe that whatever ingredients you have, you work with what you have, you work with your recipe, and as a last resort, if you need to do something like that, then do that. But you can control a lot of the drying through your method. New Zealander here, where the Pavlova originated. I know, I've got that in my notes. I do, and all of the research that I've done, but I believe you guys, okay? First of all, just so you know. But all of the research I've done says that New Zealand did have the very first recorded recipe of the Pavlova. And, you know, maybe it looked a little different than it does. A lot of pastries back then didn't look exactly like the fancy Pavlovas of now. In the United States, we just don't have the Pavlova, and I would love to see it at more meals coming up. I mean, I'd love to see the Pavlova in bakeries, and it's so great to make it huge. And again, I've done a bunch of videos where it's just absolutely gorgeous. So on Sunday, we're gonna come back and make this thing look stunning, and hopefully I'll have a little extra so I can do, well, I'm gonna be making more between now and Sunday, to be honest. But I'm gonna be making little bowls, some bird's nests that are so easy to make. And so I'm gonna try to show you some of that. So let's get started. So, ooh, the Eaten Mess looks so yummy, and that's such a cute name. Is the Eaten Mess, are they all soft, or are they crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside? I'm just curious. Is it more like a marshmallow, or is it crunchy? All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be working, and if it's superior. See, I told you we were gonna have a conversation about what it's crunchy. Okay, yeah, it looks great. I mean, and it's embarrassing. There are some versions in the United States that are kind of, hi Zoe. There are some that are kind of silly and whatnot, but I like a little more elevated with the berries and the cream and all the yummy stuff. So I don't like to buy marshmallows and do an imitation. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get started, and I'm going to do a couple things to help with the overall finish. This isn't gonna work. All right. So I have a food processor that is broken. So I'm gonna do something, and I'm going to ask you guys to not imitate me because it's probably not safe, but I am not gonna spend another whatever I spent to get another food processor when they're so expensive. Okay, so where's my little, I need my little tool. Okay. And some people ask, well, how did you do that? You have to be really careful with the food processor, and honestly, the RoboCoupe that are in restaurants are so exorbitantly expensive, like you can't even imagine. And they're all broken, and none of them work well. So basically, the thing that makes this go down, that you use to like lock the whole thing, it's broken, okay? So I basically put this on here, and then I can just push it. See, that's super dangerous. I mean, they always have something wrong, and I honestly, I mean, this whole mechanism right here, like, there's just a million things. So just so you know, anything that has, I will buy used equipment. But if it has a lot of parts, I just won't. So this one is definitely a pain in the butt. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, this is more than 450 grams. I'm going to pour this in here, I'm gonna grind it up, and then I'm gonna scale. And you can see how my scaling system works so great, because once I'm done, I don't have to look up my recipe or look around. The answer is right here on the lid. So I'm gonna close this up. And I love RoboCoupes. I couldn't live without them. But sometimes you have these gigantic ones, like at school, they'll spend, I mean, they're like 10 grand. The second rule of Baking Club is don't tell anyone I'm being dangerous. All right, so I'm just gonna grind this. You can buy super fine sugar, you can just do this. And there are very few ingredients that I recommend doing on your own, but this is so easy, it'd be silly not to. And if you're doing confectionery work, anything where you're dissolving sucrose into water or whatever, like caramel work or anything, you really do want more of a super fine sugar. Oops. So people will say, oh, you can make powdered sugar and do the same thing. You could make gianduja, but you're never gonna get it to taste like the commercial stuff. So even if I added cornstarch to this and kept going, it'll never be like 10x, ever. Because the way they do it commercially is on equipment. I think to make those kinds of things, they use these big like rollers that are made out of stainless steel. And they are very powerful, so you can't imitate it. Powdered sugar is just sucrose that's been ground, milled 10 times. Hold on, let me get my scooper. It's been milled 10 times and has 3 to 5% cornstarch. So they really commercially grind it, which I just think makes it really fine and nice. And the reason they do that is to give you a really nice, you know, it's still grainy. American buttercream it's still grainy. If you were to put 450 grams of sucrose into this machine, you might not get it all out. It might stick just a little bit. Okay. So then this, I'm just gonna add back to my regular sugar. It's not gonna hurt anything that I'm doing. Okay. So that's my 450 grams. Put this back. And then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my ingredients off of here. And I'm doing all prep work at this point. I'm going to take my 10X and I'm going to sift it. And I'm not going to put it back in the container. I'm going to sift it and put it off to the side. This is my sifter. It's a Tammy. And I don't know what brand it is, but there's nothing special about it. I should have used the smaller one. So what can happen with 10X is it gets lumpy, and that is a problem, obviously, because you don't want lumps in your meringue. I don't like to touch the food. I like to use whatever tools I can. I should have used a smaller Tammy. Doo-doo. All right, there we go. So that's all I need. And for anything that I missed, and this gets really staticky. And it's only staticky when you have, you know, a really dry environment. So my place is going to go from, you know, dry to humid. So I'm going to pick up what I've dropped. And then I'm going to take this. It's been sifted. I know it's aerated and nice and soft. And I'm going to move it out of the way. Then I'm going to clean up the counter. And then I'm going to clean my tools. Now, if you're wondering, like, is it worth it to clean your tools? I'll tell you what is not worth it, is to put all this time and energy. I love castor sugar. It's really expensive here. You have to, don't you think? I mean, it comes in little bitty containers. Do you ever know where to buy it in a bigger? And then it kind of gets clumpy. So anyway, if you've ever made a meringue and gotten all started and done all this and then it doesn't work, within 2 minutes, if your egg white is not whipping up, you have to compost it. It's not going to within 2 minutes. When you use white vinegar and you clean everything that you're going to use, and today, where is it? I am actually going to clean this as well. Plastic tends to hold fats in it. So I'm going to clean everything because I don't want anything to go, yeah, it's very expensive and it gets sold in really small quantities. So I am going to use the vinegar as an insurance policy because I just don't want it to fail. So my 10X, I'm going to put this, there we go. All right. So I'm just doing it just to make sure that there's no grease that's going to impede my egg from developing. And I did a lot of buttercreams, so there's just a lot of fat that lives in all of this equipment, even if you clean it all. So there you go. And there's even like little hidden areas that you want to get. So I have my whip. I have my bowl for my mixer. What else am I going to need to clean? I think that I'm going to clean one spatula that I'm going to use to fold in my 10X. Is there anything else that I should clean? I'm going to get my mixer. I think that's it. If you are using a hand whip to whip your eggs, which is fun, you can use, you know, a copper bowl, whipping bowl to do it. If you're using plastic, it's going to be a little bit harder to do. However, you know, you can clean it, but I would stick with a stainless steel bowl is what I would do. I'm going to plug my machine in. I'll just plug it in back here. All right. So this is all clean. Couple more things. In advance of making the whole thing, I'm going to take a Sharpie and I'm going to use this cake ring and I'm going to make a guide. This is a half sheet tray. I'm not going to do an insulated one. I'm going to be baking this at 200 for an hour and then I'm going to turn the oven down to 150. So I'm not going to use a Silpat because Silpats, you know, they can hold the fat and be greasy. So we don't want to do that. So we're going to use a clean parchment and I'm going to take this as a guideline, put it right in the center and draw a circle like that. That's just my guide. And then I'm going to flip it over. Now Sharpie is safe if it gets on your food. I mean, they use it to mark you when you have surgery, but you're going to flip this over so that if you leave it here and you put your meringue on there, I've seen people do stencils and every single one, they do it with the shoe too. Every single one they pick up has like a black line on it. So you want to definitely flip this over and this is ready to go. This is going to be my guide that I build my Pavlova on. And you can do any shape. You could do, and you could freeform it, but this should be clean and, you know, you could do several really thin, flat discs and then build a layered cake. So you want to think about what your design is going to be, and mine's just going to be a round circle. So this is, I'm good to go here. And this is my clean spatula. I'm going to put it in my plastic bowl so I don't forget. And my plastic bowl is going to go back here. Now I also have an extra tray if I want to make little guys. So I can use a scoop to make little dollops and then use the back of a spoon to make a little hole. So then that can become an individual serving. If you use a piping bag to pipe any of your meringues, be careful when you use the fabric or the reusable kind, especially if they've been had any buttercream or anything in them, because they're going to have residual fat, which is going to be bad. So that's why I use a plastic bag. Joining, is it okay to use carton egg whites? Absolutely. These are carton egg whites and they are newer. I got them from the farmer, so it's a nice strong egg. But if you use the kind from the grocery store, just make sure to read the ingredients, and they should be only egg whites. They should not have any stabilizer. We are making a Pavlova and we're making a French meringue. And I'm getting started right now. If it has stabilizer in it, it's going to whip up just like that. I mean, you can use it, but the thing I don't like about even just egg whites from the store is they're always really watery. And so I wouldn't waste my time or effort on that. So I would at least, the very least, crack eggs. So I pull off all of my labels and I keep them here so I don't miss anything. Okay, so I'm going to take the lid off of my containers. I've got my 10X is sifted, and I have my superfine sucrose that I put in the food processor. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my egg whites in here. And don't forget, egg whites are a TCS food, and they really, you know, if you think it's not salmonella, it's not a problem wherever you live. It's a problem everywhere. I get the food safety report every day. And there are salmonella outbreaks everywhere. And salmonella does not just live on the inside of the egg or just on the outside. Salmonella is all over the chicken. It's all inside and all over the egg. It's not something you can eliminate. So if you touch an egg, especially if you crack an egg, or if any way that container had egg on the outside, you need to wash your hands in between and be very careful. And they have information on how few people actually wash their hands after handling raw eggs. So it's really important, and I just want to put a plug in there. So my room is not too cold today, but I might use a torch if this doesn't seem to be coming together. So here's what you do. We want to start the egg white on low, ridiculously low. I just want to break it up. You know, when you get a strong egg and they ploop and you pull at them and they're hanging together, those are the proteins. So you need to sort of break them up. That's a strong new egg. So as you start to break it up, all these things sort of come apart, and then they eventually all gather back together into a nice order, which becomes our egg foam. So we are making a meringue, which is called a French or common meringue. I do make a simple meringue that's super easy. You know, whatever your recipe is, it's usually 1-to-1. You start your meringue and then you add a third of the sugar, 2 minutes, the second third, 2 minutes, and the third third, 2 minutes, and then you're kind of done. But we are going to keep an eye on this and go really slow. I want to go low and slow on the mixing, and then I want to go low and slow in the oven. This way of looking at it is takes patience. Getting there fast is not good. Having a really voluminous egg foam that just falls apart is not what your goal is. You want to go slow and let all the ingredients catch up. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to take my cream of tartar. And if you guys don't believe that this is acidic, just put cream of tartar on a cut. Like, you'll know it's acid and you'll never forget. That happened to me one time. I had a cut finger and I was like, holy cow. So the cream of tartar is an acid, and that acid is going to pre-coagulate or begin to aggravate the proteins so that they come together. Just like when you add heat to an egg, you slowly start to notice it changing. So a Pavlova sounds really fancy, but it's really just a meringue. And if I had even a dash of egg yolk in here, it won't work. And the other day first of all, if you're going to make the passion fruit curd or lemon cream or anything like that, you're going to need your yolks, so save them. You can save them for 7 days. You can use lemon juice as an acid, but it has more moisture in it, so I just don't like to. If you were just making a meringue you were going to use right now, you could use lemon, but we are trying to stabilize something so that it gets all the way out of the oven, maintains its desired attributes all the way to the table when we put all the fruit and the other toppings on it. So I was dividing egg whites, and they're much easier to divide when the eggs are cold. But what I didn't do, because I got cocky, was I was just cracking, and at the very end, and I had a whole large deli cup full of whites, I got a little bit of yolk in there. And here's the deal, if you work for somebody and they've asked you to do egg whites, or if you, okay, so I'm going to put 1/3 of the sugar in here. And this is going to deflate the eggs right away, but that's okay. We'll build them back up. So they're getting a little foamy, and I should have noticed. But you can see where the line is where they were. So they deflated when I added the sugar. I'm going to give it some time for the sucrose to start to dissolve. And I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. And then I'm going to add a little bit more of the sugar. And you never want to add more than 1/3. I'm going to let that go for a second. So if you get any egg yolk in the egg white, it will not work. You want to crack one at a time. And when you confirm that you don't have yolk in there, then you can add it to the whole container. And that's what I did, because there's nothing worse than getting to the end of cracking 15 eggs, and then you get trace amounts of egg yolk. And if you do get egg yolk cracked on your hands, even if it's separated from your good egg whites, you need to stop and wash your hands. You don't want to get any trace elements, because if you think about the proteins being slippery, because that's what fat does, and a yolk is fat, that's what makes it so it can't grab together. We're creating a situation where the proteins can hold on to each other and create a nice strong bubble. And the bubble walls are made up of sugar syrup, which is created with the water and the sugar that we are adding to it. And I'll even show you. So really what you're looking at, and I think I'm going to touch it just to, yeah, it doesn't feel, and I wouldn't normally do this, but it does not feel grainy. And I'll tell you what, I have to put this down because I cannot touch it. I can't touch anything now that I've touched the egg white. But it's not grainy, which tells me that the sugar is dissolving, which is good. So I'm going to go ahead and add the last 1/3 of the sugar into the egg white. And then we are going to bring that to a medium peak. And the way to know if your egg whites are good is that they should be shiny, not grainy, because the sugar should be dissolved. And they need to be shiny because if they're shiny, that tells us that there's still moisture in there. So we are going to have, we're going to flip over the whip, and we're going to see a medium peak meringue, but it's still going to be glossy and shiny. If it were really dry, and then you put it in the oven, if you think about your muscles being stretched all the way, and if you keep going, you can't. Like your muscles won't stretch anymore. You might tear a muscle. Proteins are the same way. If you go all the way and dry them out, and then you put them in the oven, they're just going to sit there. If you whip them to the right amount of moisture so that there's still a little room for them to go and grow, they're going to stretch out in the oven and puff up just a little bit like a marshmallow would. But because we're adding the 10X to the finished meringue, and then we're going to sprinkle the whole Pavlova with 10X, that outside is going to be, it's going to expand and then crust up, and then the inside will cook to like a marshmallow. And the way you know if it's done in the oven is to lift it from the parchment, and it shouldn't stick. And you want to take your time, and if you've ever noticed doing something like this, when you get like sugar crystals around the bottom, like water has, the sugar water, the syrup has gathered around the bottom and it caramelizes, which I think is pretty and it's kind of fun, but it just is a sign that your oven was too hot. So low and slow is the way to go. And like I said, we're going to do 200. So I would rather have the thing in the oven a really long time than to push it. And I personally like when a meringue starts to gather a little bit of color. I like that light caramelization for flavor. I also think it's pretty. But this has so much sweetness that the whole point of a pavlova is you need to balance out that sweetness with tart fruit, compotes, and coulis, and other flavors. And we are going to go really springy this week. And I'm going to do the passion fruit curd, I'm going to do a lemon cream, a chantilly, maybe an anglaise, but you can do anything you want. But we're going to do bright spring colors and make it kind of fun. If you have eggs from your backyard, that's amazing, and you're going to have a great meringue. You're going to have really strong protein, and you're going to have a great result. I mean, that's the best egg you can get, is a really fresh farm homemade egg from your chicken friends. I love meringue too, and I've done so many videos on the meringue because I am obsessed with it, like weirdly, and I love it. And I didn't do a pavlova till not that long ago. Okay, so can you guys see how white it's getting and how shiny? I will stop it just to show you where we are. I mean, obviously it's still running off of the whip. And I'm going to do this just to make sure that I don't have any stray sucrose, you know, dried on here. It's not the end of the world, but it's becoming thicker. There's not a ton of air in here, but you can see it's thickening and it's kind of gathering steam. And I am not in a hurry. So I'm going to do medium. No need to go really fast. When you go really fast, you build unstable bubbles. And, you know, sometimes people, like, they think they're in a hurry and it's justified, or, you know, you think, what's the big deal? I'm going to just be making this really quick. You can do whatever you want, but the ingredients are going to do whatever they want as well. And so I've said this before, you can try to bully ingredients, but you can't bully an ingredient. They bully each other, but you can't bully them. You can't tell it that you need to hurry up because you're late for something, or you didn't have time to get the right egg whites and yours has, you know, something missing. You don't. So you have to do what the ingredients want you to do. The eggs need to be room temperature, and the reason they need to be room temperature is because proteins are just like your muscles. The ingredients don't succumb to peer pressure. They don't. And everyone's afraid of the sugar because that's the bully. And so whatever you do, the bully's going to win, and sugar always wins. That's why I say sugar is going to sugar, because whenever I'm trying to do like decorative stuff, you can't, like last year I tried making some sugar flowers and they literally wouldn't even dry. They were just like, and it's bizarre because typically I don't have that problem. But what was I talking about before? I don't remember. Oh, the warm proteins. Proteins are just like your muscles, and if you want them to stretch out, you want to be warm. That's why they have hot yoga. I mean, you don't want to stretch a cold protein because it won't. It won't become voluminous. So this is cold, and it is cold. You guys want me to use a torch? When I use a torch, I do not want it to be confused with me cooking or heating this. This is cold, and that worries me, although time can fix it. So time and temperature work together. So I could use a hot towel and I could warm this up. I also want to get a heat gun from the hardware store. I don't like blow dryers because that's just a food safety hazard. There's too much floating around in the air. But a heat gun, which we use for sugar work, will add the heat without the blowing. So I'm going to torch it, but I'm only going to do it once. So just know I'm not trying to cook this at all. But this is really cold, and your hand is the best thermometer. Although it is building volume, but not as much as I would expect. So let me grab, I had a torch fire that was the scariest thing in the world, so now I'm a little gun shy. Oops, oh there it is. This is a different kind, and there's no fat on here, so it should be okay. I just don't like fire. Alright. We just warm up the bowl a little bit. Take a little bit of the cold, and usually down near the bottom. Seems to be in the back and at the bottom. Okay, off. All right, boom. No more fire. Scares me. All right, this is nice. Yeah, it's not as cold, although you can feel it distributing itself. The cold is moving around. I can feel it. All right, so I'm going to take away these stickers because I know they're in there, and I still have the 10X over here. So I'm going to put this sticker here so I don't forget. That's my visual aid so that I know I don't have the 10X. I don't want to forget it. All right. So if you have the urge to turn it up, don't. Look how pretty it's getting. It's shiny. It's white. Let's take a look at how liquidy it is. It's still very liquidy, but can you see how much whiter it is? So that's oxygen being added. When you add air, you are oxygenating or whitening. That's what like OxyClean is. When it fizzes up like that, it's adding oxygen and air, and it whitens things. So you can do this with buttercreams and meringues. They will get whiter the more that you whip air into them. What I like about recipes like this is that you do have to keep track of them and watch them, but you can be doing some other things while you do it. And it is thickening up and it looks good. And I just think this is one of the easiest things to do as far as pastry goes, and more people should be doing it. Great question. Can you add color, gel color, and make it too moist? That's a great question. You do not want to add, okay, so if you're making an Italian meringue or you're making macaron, you want to add powdered food color that's water soluble, and you want to add it to the cooking sugar. Last week, I took, and I need to post the video, I took powdered freeze-dried fruit and I added it to the Swiss meringue and to the sugar in the Italian. I could add the powdered fruit to this meringue when it's starting because I need the egg whites to hydrate that. So if you're using food coloring, you want to add it at the beginning. My concern would be that if you added paste, that it would end up making chunks. But if you add it early enough, you won't have that problem. But if you are trying to make a certain color and you haven't practiced it, sometimes it's nice to use a gel so you can do one droplet at a time. So you can add the food coloring to the beginning of the meringue, or I could add it now. I could also add a droplet to my bowl after I'm done folding it before I bake it, and then just fold it until it's streaked, which I often do with meringues. That's how they get those cute meringue cookies that have a streak of red. Water soluble. You can't use fat soluble. We don't want it fat. It doesn't go with this. So you want water soluble food coloring, and I would think about how much moisture are you adding. If it's a lot, you don't want to, but a drop or two is not going to hurt it. It won't. And you can make this any color you want. There's no butter in here to turn it yellowy. So coloring a meringue is very, very fun. I'm not hugely into food color, but you know, I think I'm going to show you the meringue that I made. Maybe I'll even play with one of these because I have some freeze-dried. So if I did it, I would want to use a natural ingredient. And with the freeze-dried fruit, it's powdered or pulverized. You want to use enough to give it color and flavor. So let's see what it's doing. It's still very liquidy, but it's getting, okay. Yeah, I'm going to show you. Let me show you. I don't want you to miss this. Look at, this is so great. First of all, it's really beautiful and shiny, but look at how now it's starting to sit on top. Okay? So it's going very slowly. If I were to rush this, I would just ask myself, why am I trying to rush it? Sure, I could get a meringue to get really full, like right now. I could force it. But what would my reasoning be? Because my goal is not what's happening right now. My goal is when I put that on the table and everyone starts eating it, that it's a complete sentence. I don't have to explain what I did, what went wrong. I don't have to have excuses or tell people what they're supposed to be experiencing. This dessert will be so good, it'll speak for itself and everyone will love it. And I will know that I took the time and gave the ingredients their just due. I let them be the guide. And I considered every single ingredient to the point where every single ingredient has been given consideration. That's how you end up with a really good dessert, not just throwing things together, which I love. I love eating anything. But if you're really going for a wow factor, you're going to spend a lot of time doing something and then you're going to bring it to Easter brunch or something, you want it to be really good. You know, my bowl still feels really good. It's chilly a little bit, but not like it was. And we're really starting to get a nice meringue. I'm going to add some vanilla bean paste because I love the way it looks. And, you know, with a meringue, really it's just sweet, but we're gonna give it a little flavor by baking it really low and slow and caramelizing it and giving a little vanilla. My KitchenAid mixer I got when my daughter was 6 months old. My grandfather, my papa, gave it to me, and it was life-changing. And I've had it for almost, well, she's 30 now, so actually she's almost 31. So it's 30 years old. It sounds terrible, but it's not. It won't die. I take good care of it. I've sort of taken it apart before and tried maintaining it, but these things are made like crazy, and you can't really get it back together. So I don't want to hurt it. I know. Well, I clean everything in between. I'm clean before, clean during, and clean after. Clean in between. And all of my equipment. I'm very proud of the way I take care of my equipment. There we go. Let's see what it's doing. So remember, we're pretending we're the ingredient. So we're going to think about what is going on inside. So we're getting some air. It's very glossy. You can see how shiny it is. But obviously we aren't there yet to medium peak. And I think my biggest shock, my biggest surprise that I learned when I learned to make meringues properly was how we were all moving too fast. Even making whipped cream, too fast. Everything should be done in medium. There's no rush. I bought a really nice 20-quart Hobart once, and when I sold it, I got 60% of its value. Like, I don't know how many years down the road. It looked brand new, and that is because I clean everything. And in a really good kitchen, if you're working for really good people, you know, you will deep clean once a week or even daily, and it's really important to take things off and out, get everything clean before you put it back. So I'm a cleaner. Right. This meringue is going to be beautiful. So on Sunday, we are going to come back and put together all my fun stuff, and I will be posting videos of different ingredients that I'll be using. And let me get my recipe here. I was on my computer and I found the recipe for L'Oreal. This is a passion cream, and I'm going to post this. I need to adjust it. Eggs, sugar, passion fruit puree, lemon or lime juice, and butter. You cook the sugar, eggs, and puree over a bain-marie to 60 degrees Celsius or 140 Fahrenheit, and then toward the end you add butter and you immersion blend. And it is so creamy, and I wrote about it in my stage notes, so I remember how good it is. I've taken a bunch of notes for all the things we could put on the side. And if I want, I can take this meringue and I can pipe leaves, flowers, twigs, mushrooms, hearts. You can do whatever you want. But we're also going to have, I'm going to make bird's nests, and I could roast a pineapple. We could use toasted coconut. So I'm going to think about some of the things. I'm going to try to keep them gluten-free. Let's see how this is going. Okay, so it's still running down the thing. When you turn it over, I'm starting to, so you don't shake it when you turn it over, you just turn it over. And we don't have any peak yet, so I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to show you how pretty this looks. Okay, so look at this. Look at it. It's getting thicker, much fluffier. So the air is being trapped by the syrup and the protein. Created a nice structure. So back to medium. There we go. And if I were making some more samples, I would totally color it, but maybe I'll make one as an example on a video. So stay tuned to my videos on my profile page, or maybe they'll come up on your FYP. Anything I do this week is going to be an accompaniment to the meringue. And I have a meringue playlist because I've done this stuff over and over and over again because I love it. But the Pavlova is really just a shape. It's meant to imitate a ballerina's tutu. Anna Pavlova's tutu from when she went through her tour through New Zealand and Australia in the 1920s. And this is what the result was, a beautiful dessert that you mound, and it looks sort of like a tutu, like a ballerina's tutu. We can make it into other shapes, which is fun. And you can cook these into cookies, and you can put them in a dehydrator. When you put them in the oven, they tend to be crisper and bring on just a little bit of color and drier. If you do a dehydrator, I've found that they're much shinier, they stay white, but they're a little chewier. Does anyone have any questions about the meringue? Or I think that doing this meringue is also fun because you could make it as spiky as you want. You could pipe kind of any shape you want. I think that's why there are some really neat sculptural, asymmetrical Pavlovas that are online that are really inspirational. And then what you want to think about beyond that is the texture and the sweetness of the Pavlova. It's so sweet, you need to balance it out. And if you, let's say we do the passion cream and that's creamy, I'm going to need to add something crunchy. And you also need to think about how does it work on the tooth. So you're not just going to throw chocolate chips on there because that wouldn't feel good on the tooth when you're eating all these other things. So you think about the size of the toppings, the color, the crunch, that kind of thing. I've made a meringue before, and once it came out of the oven, still bouncy and tasted really eggy. Well, there could be a couple reasons. You could have maybe baked it on too high of a temp, so the outside got really firm really fast, and then the inside didn't. And when you cook eggs fast, and if you whipped them too fast and all that kind of stuff, you're cooking them, which gives it more of an eggy flavor. So going really low and slow, when you go low and slow, you allow the ingredients to ingredient really slow. And it means that you don't skip a step, leaving behind some evidence that you did that. So an eggy taste is evidence that you either went too fast or too hard, it's too hot, whatever. So let me see if this is something we should look at. Ooh, look, see, it's starting to connect. So I'll show you. This might be soft peak, okay? So to know, you just turn it over, okay? So that didn't hold any peak. So we are almost at soft peak, and I'm gonna show you what we are dealing with here, what we've got going on. So look at how beautiful, and you can see in the bowl how it's gotten higher. It's still running off of the whip, so we don't want it to do that. It's very shiny. See how glossy that is? Yes, so that's a beautiful color or texture. But when I flip it out, it's kind of, oops, sorry, I'm not showing you. So if I go in and not just at the top, let's see. So it's a little soft, you see that? Little soft peak. So I'm gonna keep my eye on it. I do not want this to get away from me. But you don't flip the whip. Lift it and you gently turn it to see what's going on. And at this point, I would not walk away from this job because we are very, very close. So it takes a minute to get where you're going, but then as it gets toward the end, you want to keep track. Yeah, we are making a Pavlova. You're so cute. I'm going to add the vanilla bean paste. I'll add it in a second. Next time I check it. You could have added it earlier. This would be fine at any point, but I like to leave it so I can assess where it is and then kind of add this toward the end. As we get to a soft peak, then I'll add it, and then we will keep checking it till we get to medium peak. Ah, you made it for the first time. You enjoy. I think it's enjoyable, don't you? I don't know why more people don't make it in this state. I've never been to anybody's house that served Pavlova. I think we should make it the year of the Pavlova. I mean, it's really stunning, and it's not hard. Now, if it doesn't turn out and it's not good, and people are like, ugh, I've heard people hate meringue, they hate it, oh my gosh, they go on and on and on. I'm like, well, you haven't had a good one. Because if you have a good one, you can't stop eating it. The exterior should be crunchy and dry and delicious and sweet. And then the inside, it's like this wonderful, it shouldn't taste like raw egg. It shouldn't taste eggy. It should just taste delicious. But I would love to hear all of your stories of you trying the Pavlova because I love hearing about it. It does taste like a marshmallowy, fruity treat. You are so lucky to be in Australia. I tell you what, I need to travel. I haven't traveled enough, and I really do want to experience. You know, I had Pavlova, I saw it in Paris, and it was the summertime, and everyone was ordering it at a restaurant. And finally I said, isn't it too humid? And the waiter was like, yeah, like just Americans order it. And I was like, well, why do you even sell it? I think you should tell people no. Oh, you know what? Someone had me watch that. My kids are grown, so I don't watch Bluey, but I watched the Bluey Pavlova. It's so adorable. Okay, so here we go. All right, so it's still running. But I'm going to show you how fluffy it is up close in 1 second. But it is thick. This is quite beautiful. Let me show you. This is so exciting. Okay. I hope you can see. The lighting is so bad. Do you see how beautiful? Look at how thick. Can you tell? And it's still running though, but look how fluffy and thick it's getting. All right, so let me put this back on here. I'm gonna turn it back on to medium. And this is kind of what it looks like. You can see the way that it looks. It's not dry, it's not leaving the lines behind quite yet. And we really want to grab it right when it gets between the soft and the medium. We don't want to go beyond because we don't want to dry it out. Because if we dry it out, it's going to have nowhere to go in the oven and it's not going to be spectacular. It's going to be good, but not spectacular. Now I do not always scale vanilla. It's not going to hurt it. I'm going to just add a little bit. I'm going to eyeball it, okay? I don't do this if I'm at work. I don't do it if I have a big batch of something. It needs to be dialed in. But for right now, I'm just going to put a little in. It's really beautiful. You know, I want to show you how this looks when I do it because it's so pretty when you put in the vanilla. Okay, you guys ready? Let's see. I'm going to make sure. I don't want to pour too much in. I have to watch. Okay, there we go. That's plenty. Kind of disappeared. Yeah, you can see the beautiful vanilla beans. So they basically take vanilla bean pods during the process of making it. They use kind of the leftover shrapnel. They use the leftover stuff from making extract to make the paste. And so you get the seeds in there, which is absolutely beautiful. All right, so we're getting close here. And don't forget, I still have to add the 10X. So I've got that there. And I'm gonna, let's see. Here's my big bowl. And, okay, we're getting close. And I am all for checking. There is no reason to guess or feel like you've checked something too much or you should be embarrassed that you're checking because things change very quick. Okay, there. I'd say that's a soft peak. Do you see that? That's a soft peak. It's soft. It's not upright. But it's soft. Next stop is medium. I don't want it too soft. Now one time I did a video with, because you can fold in, I think up to 10% of other ingredients. Cocoa powder, toasted coconut, you can add some coffee extract and different things to give it flavor. And one time I did a chocolate pavlova and it was the perfect consistency in the bowl. And when I started adding the cocoa powder, it got loose. And a lot of people in the comments were like, that's too loose. The cocoa butter is fat and that is what helped to deflate. So I could have whipped it a little bit stronger. That would have made up for it. But it didn't hurt and it was delicious. And yes, when you add cocoa powder, it is not brown. It almost looks gray. So I then dusted cocoa powder on the exterior before I baked it, just like I'm going to put 10X on the exterior. Okay, I'm going to tell you how to store this as soon as I get it in the oven, and that's a great question because I will be making more just because I want to have a lot of examples for you guys. I'm going to make birds' nests and little mini bowls and a big one and some other varietals because you can, I mean, it's so easy to make this and so fast that I'll make a bunch of other ones, but I am going to show you how to store it so that it hopefully will last several days. Not in the fridge and not in the freezer. 10X is powdered sugar. All right, so let's take a look. Powdered sugar that's been milled 10 times and has 3 to 5% cornstarch. All right, so let's see. Do you guys think this is soft peak or medium peak? Look at that. I think this is medium peak. I like it, and I'm just gonna go one more. I'm going to go just another minute or so, and I'm going to call it. want to get just a little bit stronger. Yep, you can also order Nielsen Massey on Amazon, obviously, or you can get it at Restaurant Depot. That is about $100 retail, lasts forever. Almost so long that like my expiration date gets near. I love Restaurant Depot. I think the rules are different everywhere, but you know, if you can get anyone who's got a business in a Restaurant Depot card because they're free, it's just a really great place to go. There are times when it's so busy though, you want to avoid it. It's crazy. So we are working on drying it out of the bowl, but not so much that it doesn't have room to grow in the oven. And then we're going to add 10x to the exterior because the cornstarch is going to help dry out the exterior, because I want the outside crunchy and the inside to stay soft. But that doesn't mean it's all going to just work out perfectly. You have to think about the temperature of the oven, you have to think about your meringue. Everything has to come together so that you get it perfect. Yes, it travels very well, and I will show you how to pack it as soon as I get this in the oven. It travels excellent. And one of my videos, and on this Sunday I'm going to show you how to do it. You take all of your fruit, chop everything up, all your creams, your curds, you put them in deli cups and in a shopping bag, and you just plunk it on the counter when you get there, and you can put it together. You could build it at the table, on a big cake platter or cake stand, and make it a whole, you know, event. And it's very fun. So I'm going to show you how to make it exciting, because it should be dramatic. This is a very dramatic dessert. All right, let's see what we're dealing with. And I'm going to show you up close. So it feels very firm, and it's still a little soft. I'm going to keep going. I don't want to overdo it, but I am going to keep going just a little bit. My concern is it's going to get deflated a tiny bit as I fold in the 10x, so I want to make sure it's strong. I'm not overdoing it because I'm being very careful, and I didn't increase the speed. I'm being patient. And we're gonna put it onto here, onto the tray, and I'm going to aim for the center of the circle and pull it up. You're not going to want to smear it down because you want it to be lifting up, because it's going to expand out as it bakes. So you need to have a little bit of height, which will make it look pretty. If I overdo this, it won't have the stretch to expand more in the oven. Like, you know, if you cook a marshmallow over a fire, it expands. We want this in the heat of the oven to expand a little bit. And if I dry it out, which is what stiff peak is, it's drier. If I go to stiff peak, it goes in the oven, it's already to its maximum. There's nowhere for it to go. So we want to give it room to go. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be very careful. But this is beautiful. I'm going to keep going. We're almost there. We'll give it another minute or two. It pays to pay attention to every step. I think that is why I like scaling ahead as well. Because then when I'm ready to go, I can pay attention to everything and not be all like, oh shoot, I don't have enough 10x in the house. A sill pat is inherently greasy, and you don't want any fat on here. There's no way to clean it up. It's just kind of how it's made. So that's why you want to use parchment, no fat. You can't have any fat on this thing. Yes, if you did stiff peaks, then you've dried it out too much. And the moisture in the oven is what's going to cause it to expand too. I know the little bowls are the cutest. I mean, I can't decide if I like a big meringue or a small one. So how long? You know what? I can go back and look at the video and see exactly how long I did it. But let me think. We've been mixing this now for 10 minutes, right? I did foil under my parchment on a baking tray to avoid any fat. You don't need to go overboard on the parchment. Will do its job when I put it on here. Rather than foil, I would just take the vinegar and clean your tray if you're concerned about fat. But your parchment should be fat-free. But a sill pat is a no-go. It just holds on to all that. All right, let's see what we have. It could be more than 10 minutes, and I always go back when I edit my videos and I'm surprised by how long things take. All right. I'm gonna literally go one more minute and then I'm gonna be done. Because when I put it onto the circle, I'm gonna lift it up. I don't want it smushing down like this. And between now and there, I have to put it in this bowl, sift 10x over it and fold it in. So it's going to get deflated just a little. So we want this to be a little bit stronger. That makes sense, right? Isn't it interesting? Really, the truth of the matter is most people do everything in the pastry kitchen, in the bake shop, too fast. Just too fast. Whipped cream too fast, everything too fast. It's really about having patience and letting the ingredients do what they need to do. Pavlova is a practice. So much of this in my kitchen is a practice for me. A little more time. We're almost there. And you know, a lot of how the texture ends up is when you're baking it. And if you reach in to check and pull up the Pavlova off the parchment and it sticks it all, like you're just done. Gently shut the door and walk away. Let it go. Yeah, try the vinegar. We're making a Pavlova out of a French meringue. And I think we're about ready. Now I cleaned this plastic bowl earlier with vinegar because plastic holds on to fat and that's a huge problem. And that can deflate your meringue that you've worked so, look how long and how many ingredients, and we've like taken all this time to get here. This has also been cleaned with vinegar. So I'm gonna put the meringue in here and I'm gonna dust 1/3 of the 10x on top and then fold it in, not all the way, there'll still be streaks. Then a second edition, same thing. And on the last edition, I will fold it until there are no streaks. Okay, so I'm gonna show this to you up close. And then we are going to decide to, so it looks beautiful, shiny, beautiful, and there it is. You can see the vanilla bean seeds, which I love. I could probably put more in if I wanted, but I'm not going to. And it's very thick. So this is my peak. There you go. That's a beautiful, flexible. It's not too stiff that it wouldn't, you know, fall if I did it heavily. It's perfect. I think that's going to hold up in the bowl just great. All right, so now we're on a stage. What stage are we on? Stage 2? All right, here we go. This is the fun part, and I love folding stuff in. When I was first taught how to fold properly, I was so excited. So I'm going to get this over here. This is going to get out of the way. Typically, when I work by myself, I take a clean, sanitized towel and I literally go through the whole thing and get all underneath and in and the whole, every single thing. But I'm going to do it later because we're here together. So I'm going to move this. Okay, so I'm remembering that I have 10x, which I'm going to pull out right from here. Remember earlier I sifted my 10x. This is the amount that I scaled is 225 grams. This is my sticker as a reminder. And I am going to take the meringue. Look how pretty that looks. And you see it's staying in here. It's not coming out. But you saw that it's not so soft. Can you see how smooth and velvety it is? Not grainy at all. I don't know. And then it's going to go in the bowl. So you want to keep it moving. You don't want to go slow. You don't need to rush, but you just need to be aware. And sometimes bakers, they try to build in a little bit of sense of urgency because we tend to luxuriate over our work. All right. Okay. Done. Okay. It's my favorite little scraper from King Arthur Flour. And I use it for a lot of things. And I'm going to show you how I learned to properly fold in school. And it was mind-blowing. So the number one thing is you want a shallow, wider bowl than tall and narrow. When you are trying to fold and you are doing this, you are just stirring. So I'm going to take about 1/3 of my powdered sugar, which has been sifted, and I'm going to just gently sprinkle it on top. This is a chopper, straight. It's going to go straight down the middle. I'm going to lift, turn the bowl, chop, turn the bowl, and do this. I am not going like this. I'm not moving it in a stirring way. I'm chopping, lifting up along the side, and then chopping. The turning of the bowl is what gets me to the next section. And then when you do it very quickly, it looks like this. And I'm just doing up, chop, turn the bowl, lift, chop, turn the bowl, lift. So it's a very short stroke. And I'm going to do a little bit more. Chop, lift, turn. So you're turning the bowl, chopping, and just lifting. This is not going any further than this way, and then this way, and then this way, and then I turn the bowl. If you are doing anything else, you are stirring, and you will deflate more. Now, I know a lot of people say, mine's fine, and the way I do it's fine. Then that's fine. That's good. But this, if you are looking for a refinement, and then if you get anything on the edges, you are going to need to go and remedy it before you keep moving, because you do not want chunks. You want to keep your bowl as clean as you can. And really what I'm doing is feeling the bottom simultaneously. And I don't need to do this forever and ever. Like I said, if you're doing a mousse or something else, the streaks are not a bad thing, except on the very last edition. Okay, so this is my last edition. This is the third edition. Sometimes it's the smallest. You might add a slight bit more in the first two editions. Keep it moving. So you can see how the low and wide bowl is just the way to go. And I can feel the bottom. And if I feel dry stuff, then I keep going. And I can feel along the edges. So I'm going to go around and just clean up the edges and get all the dry parts in. And then maybe go around and do the same thing in a little bit smaller manner. All chopping, lifting, and turning, and then boom, okay? All right, and then I should have one area where I'm pulling the spatula on and off, and everything else should be clean. And if it's not, you can clean up the edge of your bowl. Other people should be able to touch this without getting all sticky. Nobody's hands should be sticky, and if they are, you should wash your hands and clean up a bit. So this is a fun part. Looks beautiful, and I'm gonna have plenty left over to do some little scoopy bowls and things like that. Okay, I need to get a clean towel to wipe excess meringue off of, just like I do when I'm cake decorating, when I clean this thing up. So this has never been used, it's just clean water. And, okay, here we go. So remember, this is Sharpie, but the Sharpie was written on this side and it's upside down, okay? So it doesn't matter how much I have in the bowl. I'm going to put the appropriate amount here, and to keep my parchment in place, I am going to dab a little bit of meringue on each corner, and I can't tell you how many people comment and say, just use water, but if you have ever even put parchment onto a damp countertop, it rolls up. And water evaporates, so that doesn't work. So water's not the answer. And this is not hard to clean up. I'm not gonna burn this meringue on here because I'm baking this at a super low temperature. In fact, the meringue has no fat in it, and it literally comes off being rinsed. It takes 2 seconds. The reason I'm gonna do this is because when I'm working on here and I'm lifting, I don't need my parchment being pulled up with the meringue. I need it to stay put, and this is the best way to do it. The cornstarch is in the 10X, and for me, that's plenty. I don't want this tasting more like cornstarch than it already does. Some people are really sensitive to the cornstarch taste. It's crazy. Let me see. I used to have this curved thingy I would use, and it would make a nice shape, but maybe I'll use like this. Because what I want to do is create, you can make it look pretty. And you could pipe this. I could take a pipe and make a circle and then do like stars all the way around the edge, and it would be like a plate. So whatever you want to make at this stage is what you are going to make. one time we filled up this entire convection oven. This convection oven had, I don't know, 10 trays, all meringues that people piped, and we did not do this. First of all, you don't do small bits in a convection oven, especially a commercial one. And as they started drying out, they just started flying around the oven like snow. And it was like so much time and effort wasted. So they needed to go just in a standard oven without the air. Okay, here we go. So when I build this, I'm gonna put it in the center and lift up. I don't need to push it to the edge or build it to the edge in because it's already gonna fall to the edge. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna control that just a little bit, maybe a little bit more. And you can already see this spreading. It's not like the strongest. I'm gonna go a little bit more. Why not? We're gonna be generous because I'm only gonna put 2 trays in my oven. Okay. All right, so I want to pull this together because the more surface area is going to dry out and I don't want it to get all dry. Clean it up just a little bit. And I'm going to put this off to the side while I finish this guy. And then I'm going to play with this and let you see. Sticky, sticky, sticky. So I'm going to take my little, it's like a little spoon. I don't typically like these, but I think for this it's a good thing. I'm going to lift and just do that. Lift and drop it off. Lift and go all the way around. And you know what? It's not even going to the edge, so I think I'm going to add a little bit more, which is great. I'm glad to see it. Oop. Oh, see? I always get too greedy. It's okay, we'll clean it up. All right, here we go. So that's why we have the stencil, so I can see what I'm doing. I'm not going to panic. I'm just going to work. Pull it toward the middle. It's going to be a mess. That's why I have my little palette knife to clean it up. Now, if I want to, I can take some off, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to keep pulling this inward. It's going to stay. That's why you don't need to push it down. It's already going to be expanding outward. Maybe a little too much, but now at this point I just want it to be round. Okay. Alrighty, and then I'm going to clean it up using my clean towel. Can you guys see? I'm going to go around and just lift and wipe the meringue off. Anything that's near the edges of the pan is going to brown because of the heat. Right on the edge, it's going to get a little more heat than when not near the edges of the pan, and that's normal. That's why I like my little offset spatula. Okay, so I'm going to clean this off and make sure that this is nice and clean. Give it one final pass. And you don't have to get this fussy, honestly. If you wanted to, you could just make it messy and divvy and it would have lovely texture and it would be great. So I don't want any of the meringue on the edge of the pan. Everything needs to be clean. I'm going to finish cleaning it up here. So if I leave a mess around the edge, that's just going to bake differently than the Pavlova and it's going to look bad. So I'm just cleaning up a little bit. There's no water on here. This is a dry knife. And I'll pull that up. Okay, I think I like what it's going to look like. It's going to be a little rustic. There you go. So this is going to go in the oven. I will turn this so you can see. My oven is set to 225 and I'm going to turn it down to 200. And then we're going to make some other little guys and they're going to go in the oven and I'm going to be done. I'm going to clean off my countertop. I think I made that look a little harder than it needed to be, but sticky, sticky. Okay. So I have this much left, and I'm gonna make cute little things. And put a little bit under the parchment. Doesn't even take that much. I'm gonna get my scoops. The only deal is, it's like I could make a ton of different shapes, but when you bake anything, the rule is one tray, one size, one style. So they all have to be the same. So now I look in here and I just think, well, how large do I want my serving to be? And I know I have a giant one, and honestly, I think I should just do the giant one. I think this would be a good size. And if there's any, like this is my regular nightly cookie size, so this is a bit bigger. And then I'll take the back of the spoon and make a little divot so I can put the yummy stuff inside. That's what I'm gonna do. And all I need to do, I may not even have that many. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll go down one size, looking at how much I have. And if you go to a good pastry shop, they'll be selling this stuff in the case. All right, so I'm going to scoop, I think 6 of these. Well, maybe I'll have a little bit more. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have enough to pipe a little bit. This is really sticking. They're not coming out super stiff. Okay, take a spoon, run it under hot water. I'm going to dry this off and just do a little swoosh for the interior part. I like to do this because it'll hold whatever I put on top just a little bit better. And the hot, dry spoon just kind of melts away. Oh, you know what I forgot to do with the Pavlova? I forgot to. I completely forgot to add the powdered sugar. So I'm going to pull them out of the oven. Shouldn't even be hot yet. Okay. Yeah, I think that's great. All we need is just a little bit of a divot. That way, when I put a little cream in here, it'll hold the berries and that kind of thing. Let me go get my other thing. All right, long live the Pavlova. Ooh, it did get hot. Let me see. Can't lift it up with my hands. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm gonna take, this is 10X, which is my powdered sugar, through a sieve, and I'm going to very evenly sprinkle 10X onto my beautiful meringue. This is going to help dry out the outside. And I actually want to turn it so that I can get it from 2 different angles. Okay, because yep, that was a good idea. There's no prescribed amount. You just want it to be even and not clumped. Okay, I'll do this one too. Okay, so I'm going to do these little guys as well. Nice, everything's nice and even, dainty. 10X or powdered sugar is not going to caramelize until it's about 150 degrees, and it's going to take quite a bit of time to caramelize. So I'm going to put this in the oven, turn it down in an hour, and then I'm going to leave it in the oven overnight. One of the ways to avoid the cracking, and I don't mind if a meringue cracks, but if you do, one of the ways to avoid that is to avoid really big changes in temperature. Okay, so I'm gonna put these back in the oven. This guy's going in the oven. Let me show you up close. Doo-doo-doo. So that's gonna dry out beautifully. And these are gonna look great. And this guy, if I want, when I make it, I can even cut off the top, fill it, and then top it with this little crunchy part. So you can also make a divot on this one if that's how you want to fill it. You just need to think ahead. All right, back in the oven. Woohoo! Set the oven for 1 hour. start. Okay, I'm going to talk about, oh, you guys want me to pipe really quick a bird's nest? Yes, you can, a star tip, you can make any shape you want. The possibilities are literally limitless and endless. And that's the beauty of the Pavlova. There are no rules, and you don't even need a pastry tip. You don't need a pastry tip, you just need a bag. And I like a plastic bag because it doesn't have residual fat in it. Yes, I would love to know where there's a good Pavlova in LA. All right, so I'm gonna put this in here. And we'll use up all the meringue. You know, a long time ago when in France, there were a lot of community ovens, the wood-fired ovens. At the end of the bread baking day, they would, you know, just on the embers and the residual heat, people would take their leftover egg whites from the day's worth of pastry making and put the meringues into the oven overnight. And it was a great way to use things up, and that's kind of a tradition I think is really great. If you're working, you've got all these leftover egg whites, no reason to get rid of them, and people just need to not be afraid of meringues, in terms of, you know, I don't know why people don't like them or buy them or demand them. I think they're wonderful. All right, so all I need is a scissor. I'm going to cut the end of this off, not very big, because you can always cut more. You can cut more, but you can't put it back on. All right. So I don't know if this will be enough. I love being decorative. You guys know how much I love making, you know, the mushrooms and everything, and they're so easy. So put a little bit on there, tap, tap. And I wonder, you cannot freeze it. There's too much water in the meringue, and the ice crystals will ruin it when they freeze. First of all, I'm going to make a twig just so you can see how easy it is. All you do is make a main branch and then pull in the others like this. And you can dust this with, you know, cocoa powder, powdered sugar. You can take sprinkles and sprinkle it. You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to get cocoa nibs. See how cute it is. These cocoa nibs make it look like a natural twig. Look. And they stick, and then this goes in the oven just like what we just put the Pavlova in. So that's one way to make something decorative. When you make mushrooms, all you do is either make a round top like that, or you make some sort of a stem, and it can be long and skinny, or it could be short and like this. And then that would be a stem as well. So then once you bake this off, you would take your little top and you would put it either on here, and you could connect them with, you know, white chocolate or royal icing or whatever, or you could put it on top of here, and that's your little mushroom. So I'm going to show you how to make a bird's nest. And this is just like if you were making a Pavlova, as we talked about. You could make the bottom like this. Can you guys see? And go around like that. I missed the middle. And then make with a star tip or something, this is not super strong. Make an edge like this. It's not working. And then when you bake it, that would be your little, your shape. Okay, but here is how I make bird's nests. I create a base like this, and then I build up the walls like that. And then, can you see that? This is a little soft. And then you take, well, I could do this, dry them out just a little bit. This will help stabilize them even on the pan. am going to make the meringue again, so I'll be making a bunch of examples. But then you just take, and you can make these lines squiggly a little, like I could use a different bag and make a smaller hole. But you just squiggle around. Like that. And then a little cocoa nib on my little bird's nest. See the little bird's nest? And then just a little cocoa nib. And it looks like it's been out in the woods. So let me bring my camera for you to see. Flip, flip. This is what it should look like. So I would make it much more specific, but that will bake, and then you can put your food in there, or, you know, little eggs. You could make all kinds of decorations that look natural. And I could sprinkle cocoa powder on here, and that would look like a mushroom top. I could use matcha powder. I could color these a different color. And then here's the twig. And you want to make extras because you will break or they won't turn out perfectly. And these will bake exactly the same way, only faster and all the way through. And that is it. Thank you. All right, I'm going to take off my apron, fold it up, put it away. So my meringues are in the oven exactly at 1 hour. I'm going to turn it down to 150. And after an hour, I'm going to check them. I'll look at them. For some reason, if they're not taking on any color or doing anything, then I will leave them in longer. I'm not going to turn up the oven, but then I will turn it down to 100, give it another hour, and then I'm just going to let them sit overnight and in the morning. But before I turn off that oven, I want to lift the pavlova off the parchment, and it should just come off. It shouldn't be so dry that I went too far, but like it shouldn't stick. And if it sticks even in the center at 150, give it another 15 minutes. Check it in 15 minutes. Go in 15-minute increments. All right, so here's what you need to know. This is a container I have, and the way that you check will it fit is to use, this is a stencil I use to make the pavlova, so we know it's going to fit in there, okay? So I know that I'm going to be able to get it in here, and if I can't, that's fine. I have one that's a little bit bigger than this. But this is a hard surface, durable, washable, and it's sanitized, okay? I am going to put inside here rice. This rice is just plain white rice, will absorb moisture. You can also buy desiccants online, just like the kind that come in your vitamins and your medicine, the little dry bags, and you can use a bunch of those. That's more expensive. But this rice is going to go in here like this. And then I will put parchment or whatever, some barrier. The meringue will go in there. And then this airtight lid will go on. And it needs to be airtight. This will then stay in a cool, out of the sunlight place in your kitchen or your home, someplace dry and cool, not in the refrigerator and not in the freezer. If you have a really dry environment, it doesn't even really need to be wrapped up. But if you have the moisture and the humidity, this is going to be your insurance policy. The rice is going to absorb moisture, and at the very least, you'll be keeping out the humidity and giving it an extra day or two. And then this will travel well. And on Sunday, I'll show you how I take all my deli cups, I fill them up with all the toppings. And because deli cups are so ingenious and they stack, I mean, I can't tell you how many demos in person I have done. The desiccants are reusable, and I used to have this thing, but it opened, and I need to find all the little guys. This I bought, and it has these little balls in there that all came out. But this guy actually goes in the microwave, and it turns blue. And then you put this in, and you can do this with tart shells as well. This goes in there with it, and it soaks up the moisture, and then when the color goes away, you put it back in the microwave and you recharge it. You can do that, but with the deli cups, these things stack really straight, and I find that to be ingenious. So when I fill up my ingredients, like imagine I've got my passion fruit cream in here, and then these stack into shopping bags, so you can take everything with you. It can go in the fridge, or when you get there, you can take everything out and put it where it needs to go. So you can travel with this. It's a good dessert to bring with you. Takes a little bit of pre-planning, but once you pre-plan, you're good to go. And that's it. Where did you learn to bake? I learned to bake at Milwaukee Area Technical College and at the French Pastry School. However, I was self-taught for years and years and years. And the first book I ever taught myself how to work out of was Rose Levy Berenbaum's Cake Bible. And she really explains how to bake. She explains, and she was one of the first books to work in weights. And she explains the thinking behind everything. And her recipes are so well tested. She'll even talk about how many times she tested something, 40, 50 times. And she's very trustworthy. So I would recommend any of her books. But that is how I was self-taught, and then I went to school. Milwaukee is a cream puff central because Wisconsin is a dairy state. The cream puffs are made with real cream. And, you know, everyone in there is in like winter clothes in the middle of the summer. It's 2 weeks. And the cream puffs are like this big. They're huge. And they, you know, pipe in this enormous amount of whipped cream. You always think, oh, I don't need my own, I'll share it. And then somehow you end up eating the whole thing. Any Rose Levy Berenbaum, the Cake Bible, the Cookie Bible, she gives you charts. And in the charts, she does cups and spoons and weights. And she explains the why of everything. I know, I have her new book. I got it because my old one is so broken, the bits fall out of it. And so I got the new one, and she made some changes. And also, like, Peter Reinhardt redid his baking tome, his bread book, because he added grams as well. But this is my kitchen. It's small. It's a residential kitchen. I mean, this is it. But I can give a tour on Sunday during the daylight if you remind me. I think it's too dark in here right now. But I'm happy to on Sunday. Yes, I would love to show you how I organize and how I function. And I want to tell you what I did. So I had to take an exam yesterday, and I did it online. I did the Serve Safe Manager's exam. And I'm a certified teacher and proctor. And every 5 years, you've got to retake it. And you have to get over a 90 to be a proctor. So I don't know how much it is over. But you have to get a good score to be a proctor. But when you do it online, like the computer system, they have to make sure that there's nothing in your room. It took like 45 minutes for an hour just to get the test started. And I was like deep breathing and like, you're not going to forget everything. Don't worry. And these are my note cards that I've used for years. I just go through all the note cards and study. And so I was working on the last, week studying and reading all my questions. And I passed. Shoot. I did well, and I am now again, and then I had to do an additional 2 hours of quizzes and listening to videos to become a proctor. But sometimes people ask me, what can I do to set myself apart? Or I don't have the time to go to pastry school yet, or whatever. What I can say is if you're out there thinking, what can I do? What can I add? How can I stand myself apart from everyone at work? Blah, blah, blah. Get the book. You don't even need to take a class. Get the book. Make note cards, study, and then take the exam. And if you can pass, that score lasts 5 years. Anyway, I'm a big proponent of people taking that exam and stretching their skills. Because if you have a fight in the kitchen about what something needs to be cooked to or how long or what temperature or what the rules are, I look stuff up all the time. If I want to use sanitizer and I don't know how to use it, I look it up. If I don't know the rules about something, I just look it up. It's no mystery. Everything's written down, which I love. I went to the French Pastry School and Milwaukee Area Technical College. First, I got an associate's in baking, and then I got a certificate, l'art de pâtisserie, at the French Pastry. And it was a gem. I loved it. Best time of my life. Best money I ever spent. Had the best time. I learned so much. I'm looking crazy. I don't like this. I should have left my hair up. But I was self-taught for a very long time, and there is a point where you need to discuss things with people. You need to get your questions answered, and you need to do a little bit more volume. Oh, thanks, MJ. Well, I'm just wondering, what is this? This hairstyle is it looks like 1955 or something. I don't even know. I'm getting my hair cut next week. I wanted to go to the CIA. When I was in high school, I graduated in 1986. My mother would not let me go. I couldn't go, and I didn't have anybody, any woman, anybody to help me, to help get me there. So I didn't go, and I spent my whole life trying to get there, and I went there when I was 41. So if any of you have put off any of that kind of thing, it's never too late. Yes, we are voting this Sunday. Thanks for bringing that up. We're going to vote this Sunday for next week recipes, and I am sincerely looking for recommendations because we had some. I want to know what you guys want. I'm going to narrow it down to 3, and you guys are going to pick the one we do. And I want you to think in terms of foundational recipes. We could do a sponge cake, building on what we already know. My gosh, we could do anything that has a meringue element to it. But like, we could do a creme brulee. We could do anything you want. I like being precise because if something goes wrong, I want to be able to backtrack and find out what went wrong. The sponge cake would be great because a lot of you make sponge cakes, and I get a lot of questions. Yes, I do have a gluten-free baking book. Well, I have a couple that I've been using. Let me go get them. You guys recommend so many great books, and I get them. It's one of my great luxuries of being able to do this as a business, is that I get to get what I want. Yeah, I think the sponge cake would be great. Thanks. Any comments you make, I go back and look. So thank you. I'm going to look that one up. This one's A New Way to Bake by Philip Corey, and he is a great TikTok. Great. But these recipes have QR codes so that you can watch videos that go with them. I mean, we are just living in the day and age, because like the fact that I can teach you guys, you don't have to pay for a class to learn what I just taught you would be a whole thing. This QR code, you just bought this one. I mean, I've made a few recipes out of here. I really like it. And I think I did one, a gluten-free Madeleine. It was good. And there was one I didn't love, but there was one that was really good. And then one of you lovely viewers recommended this book for me. And the reason I bought it, because a lot of you ask like, who do you like? What do you follow? Alice Medrich is the one. Like, she is a person I am going to buy her book. This is a James Beard Award winner. I'm going to trust her, and if she's making a gluten-free book, I'm going to go crazy for it. Also, there's the Tartine. There's a husband and wife team that own Tartine, and the wife is a famous pastry chef, and I can never remember her name. They have celiacs, and so there's a lot of gluten-free stuff coming out of her cookbooks, and she's an award-winning chef as well. I don't sell them. I actually give them away, or I compost them if they're not good, but we go to a farmer's market and the farmers know me, and I'm always happy to share what I make with them. And my husband might bring it to work, but I try really hard to make small batches. And I end up with stuff in the freezer, but that's fine if, and I give it away. A sponge cake is, we just did an egg foam making a meringue, and a sponge cake is an egg foam as well. There's 2 kinds of cakes. One is where you do the creaming method with soft butter and sugar, and you cream it, and then at the end you add the eggs and the flour. A sponge is where you either whip the egg whites or the yolks or whatever separately, and then they get folded in. So if you've ever made pancakes where you mix everything together, but then you whip the egg whites and add that's kind of like a sponge technique. That's an egg foam that you're adding for leavening. So if you have questions about some of this stuff, I want you to know that everything I'm teaching you is building on the last week and the week before and all of my videos. So if you missed foundational, people will say, what's a creaming method? Go to my profile page, catch up on some of the methods and techniques, because every technique and bit of information I give you is information built on the last thing that we did. And that's kind of how it works in pastry. You make connections. How much milk powder do you add on I don't know. You would have to look at the recipe and the percentages and what is your desired outcome, and then you would know. What's the most complicated thing to ever make? I'll tell you what's really hard to make. A really good croissant is very hard to make. Very. Very, very, very. That's probably the hardest thing. It's the most technical, and a really good Danish. Making laminated dough is complex, but I love it. Love, love, love. All right. So this is how it works, okay? It is Wednesday. We are the PoP Baking Club, where I come and I show you a recipe on Wednesday nights from 6 to 8. And today we did the Pavlova. And the Pavlova is in the oven. and I'm going to pull it out later tonight. And then on Sunday, I'm going to come back and I'm going to have a bunch of different toppings. I'm going to show you how to transport it, how to plate it, how to make it look beautiful. I'm going to have a bunch of different makeups of the meringue, and we're just going to talk about that. And between now and then, there will be videos on my profile page that support everything that I taught today and everything I'm going to teach on Sunday. And if you're interested in making it or keeping up, you can get the recipe off my link tree. And this video and Sundays and all the other baking PoP club videos, lives that I've done, I edit and turn into a video. Part 1 is Wednesday, part 2 is Sunday. So you're never behind. You can always get the recipe. You can do it at your own time frame by watching the YouTube videos, or you can join us and talk live, which is super fun and interactive. And then on Substack, I have my notes. Today, this took me like 3 hours to write. I took all my old notes and made them into this document that says pretty much everything I know about Pavlova. So that is on my Substack, and everything is under the Practice of Pastry. My name's Kathleen, Chef Kathleen, Practice of Pastry. I'm on Substack, YouTube, and here on TikTok, and that's it. I'm not on Instagram or Facebook. And I don't know, that's it. I'm having fun showing you foundational recipes and then supporting it with all the extra information. So it really behooves you, if you're interested in more, to go to my profile page and watch all the videos that are around here and check out the playlist, because I have a meringue playlist. So if you've missed anything, you're going to catch up on it there. I make healthy desserts all the time. My favorite thing to eat are fresh fruits, and I make healthy desserts all the time. I don't focus on it a lot, but you know, I make a lot of things that are low sugar, high fiber, alternative grain. I just don't have time to show it all. If I had somebody to do all my editing, I swear to God I could do 10 videos and 10 recipes a day, because that's not the problem. The problem is doing a really good job of editing and being able to do my voiceover and my research. So, but thanks. Hopefully at some point I will catch someone's attention. We'll be able to make something bigger out of this, and I'll be able to get some help. And it's a little easier for me to do these foundational concepts like a meringue. Like, you're not going to see it come out of the oven. I'm sweaty. But you're going to see it on Sunday, and you will see a video, because I will bake this and show everything I talked about will be in a video that you can watch about how I check the bottom and how I see for doneness. Thank you so much, everybody. I have so much fun finally finding an audience that's live that I can teach to and be a part of. You are welcome, Rainy Bee. You're welcome, Carrie. Thank you for coming. Thank you so many. You guys are all so nice and engaged. What a wonderful group of people. I mean, it's just, we're all a testament to what social media can actually do. Like, I think this is an example of the power of something good in this milieu. It doesn't need to be negative. It can be positive and give to the world. And that's what we're all doing. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you all on Sunday, noon Eastern Standard Time. The PoP, we're going to finish our Pavlova, make them beautiful. Between now and then, I hope you guys all have a good time baking. Happy baking. Take care and have a wonderful evening. Thank you. You guys are attracting the good. This is an exchange of good. We are bringing good into the world. That's what the world needs, is a little bit more good and positivity. Good night. Goodbye. I'm going to hang up. I hate saying goodbye. You guys know. All right. Take care.